For nearly 5 decades, one man helped shape not just a university, but the soul of a city. Dr. Norman C. Francis is being remembered as a man who made a difference. Francis was a longtime president of Xavier University, the nation's only Catholic historically Black university, serving from 1968 to 2015. During his 47-year tenure, he transformed the school into a powerhouse for medical education. Years earlier, in 1952, Francis himself earned an undergraduate degree from Xavier. The Lafayette native also earned his law degree from Loyola University before dedicating his life to education and civil rights. But his impact stretched far beyond Xavier's campus. After Hurricane Katrina, Francis became a steady voice in the city's recovery. Governor Kathleen Blanco tapped him to lead the Louisiana Recovery Authority, and in 2006, President George W. Bush awarded him the Presidential Medal of Freedom. He died at age 94, but in New Orleans, his life's work stands as a reminder that education goes beyond the classroom. It's a catalyst for community change. For NOLA Now, I'm Shan Bailey.